Search the University of Waterloo on YouTube and you get me. You probably found this channel through my Day in the Life or through my Waterloo videos. I still get messages on a weekly basis of people asking me for career advice, for school advice for their future. And now that I've had a little distance from that time in my life, I realized that when I made that video, I wasn't in a good position to be giving anyone any advice. Only a little while earlier, I uploaded a video called You Are Not an Imposter. It was my take on imposter syndrome. And I don't think that I'm perfectly qualified to explain to you how I was feeling when I made that video. My life and life circumstances is just too different now. So I'm going to let past me explain it to you.
Imposter syndrome is a tricky beast. Often you're told the same shtick that you'll get through it. Everyone goes through something like this, everyone that's in these kind of fields. And the person that's telling you has already made it. You're being told by someone who's already working in Silicon Valley or someone that's already achieved what they want to achieve that it was all just a trick that your brain was playing on you. For those of you that don't know who I am, and that's probably pretty much nobody since I'm at 4 subscribers and all of them probably came from Joma's Discord. My name is Adam Wong. I wouldn't say I feel like an imposter, but I feel like I might not make it.
Shortly after I made the imposter syndrome video, I got a 38% in calculus, 38. And for co-op, I got 0 interviews. I still ended up getting a job through a connection that I luckily had. But getting 0 interviews just kind of means that I couldn't compete against my peers. So this video is kind of a how I got from 38% in calculus to working at bigger tech companies kind of video. And I think the only way for me to really make this video is for me to just tell you my story. High school was easy. Even though when I was in high school, I didn't know that. When I got into university, I realized that I had no idea how to work for anything. The fact that you have to work harder in a university might seem obvious to you, and to me, it was obvious to a certain extent. I mean, when I got there, I implemented a strategy where I tried to do a little bit of work on my assignments every day. But I drastically underestimated how much time I needed to put in. I still remember one night when I set aside 2 hours to get half of my assignment done, and after 2 hours, I hadn't even finished one question. My lack of strategies, techniques, and overall not great work ethic negatively affected my grades. And I guess the question is, does this matter? There's kind of 2 answers here. The first one being, yes, it does matter, like objectively. People will tell you otherwise. I was told that grades don't matter in getting an internship. But in first year, they do. There's nothing else that companies can use to even filter between people. Now, this may not be the same for every university. At Waterloo, they require that we submit our grades when we apply to internships. And it certainly doesn't matter as much as time goes on. But in first year, don't kid yourself. Like, work hard in school and get good grades because it'll really make your life a lot easier when getting an internship. And even if grades didn't matter, it's kind of indicative of a larger problem when I wasn't getting good grades. It meant that I wasn't truly committed to my future. When I got into university, a large part of me really valued having fun. Because of this, I ended up with 2 friend groups. One of them was for having fun, and one of them was for doing schoolwork. The question is, what group would I have rather spent my time with? If you would have asked me at the time, I of course would have said that grades are more important and doing good in school is more important than having fun. And even though I knew this to be true, subconsciously, I think I still valued having fun over getting good grades. And the truth is, it was just easier to spend time having fun rather than studying. Now, again, this might seem obvious, but at the time, I didn't realize that this was the case, especially since I was working harder than I had in high school, but I just wasn't really working hard enough. All of this kind of came to a boiling point when I got a 38 in calculus, as I mentioned before. And then when I applied to internships and got 0 interviews. I dug my own grave, I know that. I messed up and it really destroyed my confidence. I was thinking to myself that maybe I didn't have what it take to work in tech. Like other people that I knew got internships, what was wrong? Maybe I wasn't smart enough to even be at my university. Other people did fine in the course. What was wrong with me? especially since, again, I thought that I was working hard. So my confidence was destroyed, and frankly, I stopped even applying to big tech companies because I just didn't believe in myself. I really didn't think that I would get in, and I didn't want to let myself down. It was easier to lower my expectations than it was to not meet my expectations. The point of this video, though, is more to ask, how did I change? And how did I go from that kid that was failing classes to getting into tech companies? You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I cannot overemphasize how true this is. The first thing that really changed is I started hanging out with more people that shared the same goals as me. It didn't mean that I didn't have fun anymore. It just meant that I didn't have to choose between having fun and putting in work. Like, I would study with these people right after going rock climbing. We even applied to jobs together. So after hanging out with these people, my grades started kind of recovering and going back up. And this really boosted my confidence. That brings me to the night that everything changed. My confidence was kind of low. So when I was applying to internships that term, I mostly skipped over any big companies. Since I'd been doing pretty well in school, I decided to take a chance, and I applied to Shopify. At the top of the cover letter that I submitted, I put a link to a YouTube video of my band playing. I don't really know what the logic was behind that. I guess I just figured that they weren't actually going to read my cover letter, but maybe on a slim chance, someone would like my band and decide to give me an interview. In total that term, I got 2 interviews. One of them was Shopify, and I won't name the other company. I basically got 2 interviews out of 50 applications. That's not super good. I'll just say the odds weren't really in my favor, especially since when I actually did the interviews, I bombed one of them really hard. After bombing the interview, my confidence was back to 0, and I was basically just waiting to hear back from Shopify. I can seriously say it was one of the most stressful times of my life waiting to hear back, especially since Shopify calls to both accept and reject you. So when I actually scheduled a call, I was sitting there, waiting to essentially hear if I had an internship or if I had nothing for the term. And then I got the call. And I got the job, and my situation changed like that. I can honestly say it gets so much easier after that first internship, and maybe that'll be the subject for a different video. Now I've had a chance to tell my story, which is pretty cool, but keep in mind that this actually takes place over the span of 3 years. And while I'd love to just leave it for you to take away the lessons from the story that you choose, I'm going to do my best to lay out the 2 main morals of the story. The first one being that you really have to commit to your future. This includes committing to school. You can't expect to get into Google if you aren't even trying your best in school. And if studying for school is hard, studying the LEET code that you need to get into these companies is going to be extra hard. So do some self-improvement. Figure out what your flaws are and try your best to fix them. I was kind of a lazy fuck. I had my priorities all out of whack, and that was the main takeaway from my story. The biggest thing I did to help myself was finding a group of friends that could all really focus in on school and motivate me to focus on school. What you do might be a little bit different for you. So maybe sit in a room for a little while and think about what your weakest points are. The second one is to just keep taking chances. When you spend a lot of time reflecting on yourself and on your weaknesses, it's easy to get discouraged and just not take chances like applying to some of these companies. And obviously, if you don't apply, you'll never get in. To be perfectly frank, I made this video to help people, but I also made it to kind of talk to myself in the future. That was why I started this YouTube channel, really, was to kind of document my experience so that I can look back 3 years later and see what's changed about myself. And even though I basically made a whole video dissing what I was like in first year, I kind of think that I was onto something in first year. So I think that maybe first year me should be the one to finish this video.
If you have a goal and you really, really want to obtain that goal, every decision you make from now on has to help you get a little bit closer to that goal. And if you work hard and you play your cards right, sooner or later, you can be the one telling other people about when you had imposter syndrome.